Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients. My guest this week is Kristin Harad. Kristin is a business development coach and fractional CMO for RIAs, and she helps multi-advisor firms build a growth system their whole team can follow. Now, in this conversation, Kristin and I dig into a topic that comes up constantly in the world of financial services marketing, which is personal branding. And specifically, what does it actually look like for an advisor to build their own personal brand when they're part of a larger firm? We talk about where to start, why so many advisors unknowingly leave a poor first impression online without even realizing it, and what firm leaders can do to create the kind of culture and framework that empowers their whole team to show up, market authentically, and participate in business development. And so what I love about this conversation is that Kristin brings it to life with real examples, from simple but powerful audits you can do today to a creative team video campaign that had clients writing in to say they felt like they were meeting their advisor for the very first time. So whether you're the advisor who's looking to carve out your own voice within your firm, or you're the firm leader trying to figure out how to get your whole team rowing in the same marketing direction, this episode is going to give you a lot to think about and act on. So without further ado, let's dive in. Kristin, I am so delighted to have you join me on the Finance Marketing Podcast today. I want to jump in with just the big question. A lot of younger advisors on a team are wondering how they can start to market themselves and build up a little bit of a personal brand for themselves as an advisor, as a professional, underneath the umbrella of the firm that they're working for. And I know this is something that you do a lot of work with. So can you talk us through what some of the challenges are?
Oh, absolutely. And thank you very much, Hillary, for having me here today. I'm excited to get into this conversation. Yeah, this is a question that comes up a lot. Obviously, when you're newer in your career and you're trying to make your mark or do your piece as an advisor, you want to start to, network and connect and get out in the world. It's a question of, how do I have my own identity? How do I create that, what we call the personal brand, right? Which pretty much arose coming out of obviously social media and the internet and just the ability of consumers to get to know individuals outside of the firm online before they even meet the people, which is fascinating because, I always like to compare the personal brand to the corporate brand, right? Which is the umbrella brand, right? Which we, if we go back in time, say, 30, 40 years, the big brands that could put a lot of money into advertising and show up in the Wall Street Journal, show up in the New York Times or the local newspaper with an ad, or be on television in the old, or send out the mailings. The corporate brand was really what consumers or clients connected with, right? Because that was what they were seeing over and over and over again. And then, they reach out, call the number on the mailing or the ad on TV or from the newspaper, and they'd get connected to someone. Or even advisors who were out doing their cold calling or connecting in the community were kind of leveraging the brand name, right, of the company. Well, now fast forward back to where we are today, and we have Instagram and LinkedIn, and we have video and podcasts, and all of these things are not with the corporate brand, right? They're with the individual. So the season is available, ripe for you to show who you are as a person. And so advisors, I know, especially in the next gen world, are embracing this and want to be out in the world, want to be online, want to be sharing. And to get back to your original questions, right? I did a lot of background there to say, you need to start with saying, let's do an audit. Like you're saying, okay, where am I? First things first, if you're working in a firm and the firm has a website, you're on the website. What is that bio saying about you? So you're going to look at that, and we're going to have that element. And then you're going to look at LinkedIn and say, what is LinkedIn saying about me? Because even if you aren't marketing on LinkedIn, you aren't regularly posting, the consumer, the client, is going to do their research. They're going to look up your firm. They're going to look up you. If they type your name in, LinkedIn is likely going to come to the top, right, of where you are and your name there. So that is where we want to focus first, on really making sure that everything you have on that profile and on your bio and your website conveys what's important to you. Why do you do what you do? Who do you help? What matters to you? What problems do you solve? And this is something that, a lot of times when someone joins a firm, the firm's like, okay, they kind of give you the template of, here's the bio, here's the template. We need to know your designations, your education, and here's your role in the firm. And it's pretty generic and standard and compliance approved, which is all great. And especially as firms get bigger, they have control over that. But this is where individuals have an opportunity to shine and to be able to make themselves come across as more human and as people, as individuals who can connect with you. And I think the work starts there, and we can get into how firm leaders can enable that and help and provide that room for that. But the work starts with saying, if someone looked for me online, what would they find? Yes. And then making sure that reflection is exactly what you want someone to know about you.
So you work with a lot of firm leaders. Do you find, because I've heard this from a couple of, for lack of a better word, junior advisors or newer advisors to the team, they're worried what their firm leader is going to think or say, or that they're not going to want to support them in kind of building their own personal brand. What do you see? Are firm leaders typically excited for the advisors on their team to go through and to be marketing and bringing business into the company? Or is there some pushback there?
Well, I think that firm leaders would absolutely welcome and love that. I think the opposite tends to be true, that they're not seeing enough of that willingness to be out in marketing, to contribute. I mean, obviously there are people who do that, but there's a lot of sort of next gen advisors coming up who have been trained in the, in the techniques and the financial planning methodologies, and really being technicians of their craft, which is great, because we know now that we have people who didn't start as salespeople. They're starting as actual, financial planners who understand the material, who can do the work, who can make the projections, who can make the plan. So there is a disconnect that I see a lot of times, with firm leaders really want the advisors to be contributing and participating. And they are cautious as well, because they want to make sure that it still fits within the brand and who the company stands for and what they're about. So it's a bit of a push and pull on that front, because I think advisors who are interested in doing marketing, in doing business development, and in contributing in their way need to understand kind of what is the company brand position, how does their personality and ideal client fit within that umbrella. And I would say the burden is not all on the next gen. It's got to come back to the leadership, saying, hey, this is what we stand for, and speaking with every individual advisor and saying, who are you working with? Who do you want to work with? Who are you attracting in? If you wanted to contribute in marketing, or if you're expected to contribute in marketing, what is your best way to be able to do that? What are you drawn to? What are you excited about? And enabling and allowing that. And then also giving high-level guidelines and frameworks for how advisors can participate in their authentic way, in their way of getting out in the world. And that's something I'm not seeing enough of.
So what do you think the dangers are when firm leaders are not giving that guidance? They're maybe encouraging the advisors on their team to go out and market and do business development and build maybe this personal brand for themselves, but there are not guidelines that are provided there. What are some of the potential downfalls?
Well, I think the biggest risk, of course, is a compliance breach, right? Like to have someone say or do something that is, well, one, just not permitted, right? Like not compliant. And that's kind of like the big scare, like everyone's nervous about that. But then it's also making sure that every activity, you know this as well as anyone, like building a brand is about a series of consistent interactions over time that reinforce a set of values, a positioning, and a personality, right? The brand equity, and every interaction that the firm, whether any individual on the firm, whether it's the person answering the phone or the person making the trade and sending the confirmation email, or the advisor who's out on social media, making connections, sharing content, all of those interactions are like little deposits to the brand equity, and they can be positive or they can be negative, or they can be neutral, right? No effect. So we want as many of those interactions from a firm level to be positive, right? To be building to the same goal, the same vision, the same equity, and building up and reinforcing that. So the risk of letting someone just run free is that they're like ultimately the antithesis of that, which would be like the extreme, or they're just not, it's either neutral, it's not really helping, it's not hurting, but it's not really adding, or it's negative in some way, where it's an opportunity to be able to reiterate, hey, this is, our company. And within that, I am the person who is, works with the women going through divorce, or business owners, or the children of our clients who are, in their early 20s and just getting started or getting launched. So it's a lot of people want to just be like, okay, whatever, that's great idea, great, wonderful concept if you have the time and money and energy to look at it. But it's really just about setting the framework and saying, hey, these are the values. We, start with core values. This is what we stand for. It's easy to then figure out what fits under that, and then have those conversations with your advisors who's like, I really want to be out on Instagram, and I know my audience is there, and I want to record a daily video and get out there and share. It's like, okay, great. Learn as a leadership, learn what is the messaging, what is the type of content. Obviously content, have your review process in place, however stringent or loose that might be, and monitor, watch, see what's happening, see what the person, but give the person creative freedom to be out there after you've had the conversation and talked about, how does this roll up to the brand? Where do you fit? What does this look like? And let them be themselves, their authentic self, as if they were out at a conference meeting people. They're doing it in a public way that's going to have that's not going to disappear, right? Because it'll be online and people can find it. But give them the guidance and tools to be able to do it in a way that will support them and support you as the firm, the firm.
Yeah, what I love about this is it goes a lot deeper than just giving them like, okay, these are the colors that represent our brand, and here's the logo that you can use. It's like you have to get really clear on what the firm values are and make sure that your team members are really bought into those values so that they can communicate them in their content online.
Right. And it doesn't mean there's an elasticity to those values that changes based on who the target audience is, or who that advisor is, and how they interpret it and fit in there, because we don't want a whole bunch of robots, right? We're trying to differentiate from the robots, right? We're trying to show the humanity, show the different sides and personalities and vibes and styles, and within sort of that uniform piece. So it's not easy, but it's simple in that way. Not to be cliche, but it's like, okay, how do we start? Where do we go? I mean, it's something that when I have these conversations, it starts with the leadership being clear on the firm brand, right?
Right. I feel like the way that I've seen this kind of play out in two different ways, and I'm curious to see if you've seen it play out differently than the way that I'm thinking about it. But the most obvious example that I can think of is we have the firm brand, we have the values, and then this advisor who's on the team goes out and carves out their specific sub niche under the firm brand.
Right.
And I am the person, like you said, I'm the person who works with recently divorced women, and this is why, and having gone through a divorce myself, and so that's kind of the personal brand. They stake their territory there.
Right.
And then the other way that I see it playing out too is, the brand may have a really, really specific niche that they work with, that every advisor works with. And so the advisor then goes out and kind of builds out, well, this is my perspective on how we work with clients, or this is how I work with clients in specific. I'm wondering if that kind of encompasses what the options are, or if you've seen other things happening.
I think that's a great distinction. And I have seen sort of a nuance on the first option. So obviously, if we're a very niched firm and we have advice and we're serving like executives in tech or something, and we have like different people who maybe understand, Google or AI companies or various, they might have their sub niche around expertise based on where they've been, or they understand engineers versus salespeople or HR people. That's one area, and that's fascinating and a great way to differentiate personal brands there, because an engineer is going to receive things differently than a salesperson, and we need different people on the team for that. In the sense where it's like, oh, we have the big company brand, and then we have our niche specialties. There's two ways that can kind of break down when you think about marketing and content. And I'm sure you know this very well, given your expertise, but you could have company brand. So your ABC Wealth Management, and then let's say you're doing videos or blog posts, and you have a blog on your site, and then different advisors are contributing their articles based on their niche, which are authored byline. The byline is by the advisor, and then it connects back to their profile that says, Susie is an expert in working with women going through divorce. She's a certified divorce financial analyst and has her, understands from her own experience, blah, blah, blah. So, or feels connected to this because her mother went through a divorce and she witnessed it as a child and she wants to help other women. So something very personal and around that. And that's all under the company brand, but authored by, right? Or video featuring Susie, right? That's what I kind of call that centralized branding, in that it's under the company name you have the blog. But there's also something that I don't see as much anymore, but it's there, that I consider decentralized branding, where the individual advisors will have their own blog, their own brand, their own platform, like the Reformed Broker, kind of one of your biggest examples, right? And then but if you're going to work with person's name who's very famous, and I just forgot it. I want to say Josh Brown, Reform Broker. We're going to do listeners. We're going to do a quick Google search, even though I know you all know, but you can see I don't read it. But the example, I mean, it's one of the biggest individual brands out there. Yes, Josh Brown.
It's Josh Brown. Yeah.
Yeah. But sorry, Josh. We can, but he's based out of, if you're managing money with him, it's through Ritz-Hold Wealth Management, right? So that's the big company, but he has a whole brand under the Reform Broker. That's where he educates, teaches, puts books, speaking, all of those different things. But if you ultimately want to invest and put your money, your money with him and have him manage your money in his role as financial advisor, you go through the company brand, which is Ritz Wealth Management. That's kind of your big example, right?
Right.
It is harder for, if you kind of bring it down to just a few advisors in a firm, it is harder the smaller the firm is to, really benefit from that in the same way. I think, bringing advisors together under the corporate brand is the more sustainable, easy way to keep things on track, just because you can, review everything, manage everything, make sure it's compliant, telling the same story. And frankly, there are very few advisors who are really willing to get out there with a frequency to the degree that we would want in developing their own brand, sub-brand under the company brand. It's a tougher sell, but I didn't want to overlook it, given that you asked the question of, are there other ways to do it? That is another way to do it. If you are very passionate about blogging or doing a video channel, a YouTube channel around a topic, you may ultimately keep it educational and keep it in a different brand, and then say, hey, and I, in my role as advisor at ABC Wealth Management, we're able to help provide that solution. So
It's interesting that you say that, because I actually do know an advisor, part of a smaller team, who has done that. He has his own podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of times it happens with a podcast, right?
Yes.
And they'll just do it, and they'll be like very passionate about it, and they'll go out and do their podcast, and it's separated in that anytime it's about delivering the investment advice and getting into the money management elements, that it's tied back to the RIA, right? So I think I loved that model. But that's from someone who enjoys marketing and who is like, yes, of course, who wouldn't want to get out and have their own podcast or blog and but again, if you're like a firm leader and you're like, all right, I really want to help our marketing, help us get out there with more content and get out in the world, then it's saying, all right, let's give an opportunity to different people in the firm to showcase their voice or expertise. And that doesn't always mean just advisors too. Sometimes it's someone in operations who has a certain passion about a topic that fits in the content. Sometimes it's, someone more junior on the team who happens to be an expert on something like, college, paying for college, and maybe they more recently went through it and can give a firsthand view on that. There's different ways, as I'm sure you see with your work in content, that you can build those, involve other people, because everyone in the firm has a personal brand, whether or not it's like maximized or just part of the team, because there is everyone's on the website with a About Us page, and the second most visited page on a website. People come in, they want to see the people, they want to read about them. And so how can you bring the firm to life, getting, and the great thing about personal brands now is that they're really helping to differentiate. Again, it's kind of a callback to the robo-advisor thing when everyone was trying to differentiate from the robo-advisors, but now they're trying to differentiate more from AI, which seems to have a lot more momentum and use case around it than that. So I think continuing to call out the human elements of advisors and they're understanding the emotion, the personality, the individualness of each person in the firm is going to be important as we move ahead.
It's interesting that you say this, because it's reminding me, and I have to give credit to Nikki Clark, because it was her LinkedIn post that brought this to my attention. But LinkedIn's most recent algorithm update, it's showing that LinkedIn is rewarding companies and brands where multiple employees on the team are posting content. And so having this kind of employee culture where maybe the company page is resharing posts from employees, it does a lot for reach on LinkedIn and just for building that full umbrella brand out when you have these different kind of sub personal brands underneath. So I thought that was really exciting. That's kind of something that I'm trying to encourage my team members to do as well, is post more on LinkedIn about your perspective and what you're working on. And so I think it's just really great for firm leaders to kind of understand that if they are on LinkedIn, to encourage that and to reshare their employees' posts and to lift them up.
Right.
And it's a rising tide that everyone can benefit from.
Right. And I would say to also carry that through in the emails that you're sending out to your list of prospect leads and prospects and clients. I just received the monthly newsletter from one of my clients, former clients. I haven't worked with them in a bit, but they've been off and running, doing their marketing and doing a great job. And I was so excited because I opened their newsletter today and it led with, here's what's going on with our team. And it was all personal stuff about the team, like so-and-so's getting married next month. This person's taking a trip of a lifetime. And it was just highlighted a few team members. And and it's interesting because I feel like, and I'd have to go back and look, that used to be at the bottom. Like it used to be. But now what I love is I saw in this one, I have to call them up and give them a, hey, good job. The sandwich, they led with the team news, then got into some market commentary and what's going on. And actually, they led with team news, a podcast episode that they were a guest on, or they guested on, and then some market commentary to say, hey, we do know what's going on in the world, right? And then ended with some photos of someone's trip to like Disneyland or something. And it was very like, oh my goodness, that's what people, they want to know, that these are real people on the other side of the screen, right? Who are connecting with them. And I loved seeing that execution come out. And so doing some of that on LinkedIn too, in the way to be able to humanize the company. That's where I think it really can, it can go up you can push it up to people who don't know you and the firm can be sharing out there. And you can push it down to people who are on your list, who are trying to get to know you, or who are clients who want to get to know you better.
Right. I mean, if we're talking about AI not replacing advisors because of that human element that clients appreciate, we should be serving up that human element as much as we possibly can, because that's what's going to keep them retained. And that's what's going to bring in new clients who are looking for that.
Exactly. 100%. And I think that's if that's one of the things we can bring forth around brand and content and messaging and all of that, it's how is it that you can make this highly relevant and human to the person who is reading it, watching it, listening to it. And, how can you open up more about yourself as an individual in the firm? And then how can the firm leadership enable that? And so is it I give the example sometimes of a firm I worked with who we brought in a videographer and set up a little studio in one of the offices and had every person on the team. So I think it was about a dozen people. And each one sat and I sat behind the camera and chatted with them. And they, told me about who they are and what they do for the firm. And it was very, very conversational. And then we did kind of a speed round where we'd be like, dog or cat, beach or mountains, like football or music, like it was kind of like back and forth. And they would laugh and relax and it was fun. And then, of course we edited. I wasn't in the videos. It was just the person talking. So you got to know, what do they do? A little bit of what's interesting. How do they spend their free time? And then this little fun bit. And we sent that out as a campaign over the summer on LinkedIn. We posted one a week. And then we sent it out in an email to clients and to prospective people. And some of the clients wrote back and said, oh my goodness, I have worked with Mary for 5 years and I've never, ever, I've only been through email with her. I've only talked to her on the phone. I didn't know she sang in the choir.
Wow.
I didn't know she played golf. This is so exciting. Oh, it feels so good to meet the people I've been talking with for so many years,
Right.
I loved it. I was like, okay, we're sending this out every 6 months at least.
Yes, you have to. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's really fun. I mean, people write back. I watched every single one.
Oh, wow.
I know. I was blown away, I have to say, because, it really brought to life. Yes. Do we have pages there that show a nice professional headshot with the official title and all of the designations? We sure do. we have, we reinforce their expertise and their knowledge. And then we have an outside the office place where it's like a little bit about what's interesting to them, and they can share as much or as little as they want. Some people are more private. Some people are more forthright with what they care about, but it's a good way just to enhance personal brand of everybody on the team.
Right.
And just, again, whether you call it personal brand or don't, it's about bringing the human element back in, bringing the person back into personal branding and making it human. And that's what we all want, right? Connection and that's what we can deliver through these different modes.
Well, Kristin, is there anything that I haven't asked you yet that you think would be really pertinent to this conversation, good for firm leaders to hear about, or younger, advisors on the team who really want to be doing this kind of thing?
Well, I think the best thing a firm leader can do is take, depending on the size of your firm, 15 minutes to an hour, depending on how many people you have, and just do a quick audit across LinkedIn and across your website and look and see everybody on the team. What is it saying about each person, and does it match up and reinforce and have a positive impact on your brand? Like, just look at everyone's LinkedIn, just quick snapshot, what's the photo look like? Is there a background photo? Like, just go through the list, go through it and take a snapshot and be like, where are we inconsistent? Where is it that we can improve this? And then meet with everyone individually and make it a company goal. Like, by the end of Q2, we're all going to update our profiles and get a new headshot, or add something personal to the bio if you want to, whatever it might be. And you can have someone on the team champion that. You can have an outside person come in and help. It all depends on what you're looking for, depending on how big you are. But just take a temperature read and take a look, because a lot of times you haven't looked at these things 3, 4, or 5 pre-pandemic. Maybe you have I don't know, we've been so busy we haven't even looked, and then you go back and you're like, oh my goodness, how old is that? Or it says like, a client service associate, and now the person's a lead, not quite a lead advisor, but not quite, but something to that level where you're like, hey, you've grown and moved up the firm, let's let everyone know. Yeah, there's a lot to it, but it's really fun when you kind of allow for that authenticity and humanity and personality. I find it to be, everyone gets pretty excited about it.
Everyone gets excited. People on the team, the clients get excited about it.
Yeah.
The prospects get excited about it. So I am in full agreement with you, Kristin. If people want to learn more about you or connect with you, where are the best places for them to do that?
The very best place is to go to fulladvisorcoaching.com. That's my website. And if you want to have a conversation, you can click the button in the upper right-hand corner that says request a call, and we will find time to chat. And then also I am out on LinkedIn at a regular cadence, and feel free, if we're not connected, to send a note or message me there. And those are probably the 2 best ways.
But you have a podcast as well that is wonderful.
Oh, very good. That is true. And I am excited that you have everyone, if you're listening in, go to Full Advisor Coaching Podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, all of the platforms. And episode 54, you'll get to hear my conversation with Hillary.
Which was so fun.
Yes, we had a great time on that. So yes, I am encouraging, it does show up on the website, but yes, please, if you have not tuned in, I invite you to come listen to the podcast.
Yes, everyone should. And I will link to all of that in the show notes. Kristin, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you, Hillary. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.